This is CNN.
A presidential salute to American labor on this end of summer holiday that signals back to work, back to school, and on to the fall election campaign.
The vice president carries the administration's family planning and abortion message to the Cairo Population Conference.
And from Los Angeles, what lies ahead in the O.J. Simpson case as the countdown to the trial continues.
Welcome to NewsHour. I'm Natalie Allen in Atlanta.
And I'm Reed Collins in Washington.
As many people take a break from work this Labor Day, President Clinton put on a hard hat and headed for the factory floor. Let's go live now to CNN's Jill Doherty in Martha's Vineyard. Jill?
Natalie, President Clinton chose the Bath Iron Works in Maine for his Labor Day speech. The shipyard is one of the largest in the country building Navy ships. Its primary product was the Aegis guided missile destroyer, one of which the president toured today. The end of the Cold War has meant lost jobs, but employers and employees and management there recently signed an innovative labor agreement, which they hope will make them more flexible and more competitive internationally. And President Clinton used that as an example.
We have expanded trade, we have expanded educational and training opportunities, but maybe most important of all on this Labor Day, we have called for new partnerships in shipbuilding, in airplane building, in automobiles, in agriculture. The partnership here that you've heard these people detail between labor and management is the thing I came here to highlight. Even in the driving rain, the rest of America should know that if you can take a 110-year-old company and redesign the relationships of labor and management in a new partnership and ask the national government to help you to build a commercial future as well as a defense future, then every manufacturing facility in America can do the same, and we can rebuild this economy on the strength of your example.
Maine, of course, is the home state of Senator George Mitchell, the majority leader who is retiring this year. And Mitchell has been a key player, a crucial player, of course, in trying to get the Clinton agenda through the Senate. And as might be expected, he gave a thumbs up to the president's performance.
Since Bill Clinton was sworn in as President of the United States, 4,100,000 new jobs have been created in America, 90% of them in the private sector, more than were created in the previous 5 years of Republican presidents put together. That's the result of the president's economic plan.
Mitchell's retirement has thrown his Senate seat up in the air, and it's an increasingly tight race between Democrat Thomas Andrews and the Republican Olympia Snowe. Andrews was at the event with the president, and he did speak, but just how much help the president will actually be able to offer to Andrews is doubtful. I'm Jill Doherty, CNN, reporting live from Martha's Vineyard.
You know, for most Americans, Labor Day offers the final opportunity for some summer fun. For the nation's trade unions, it is a time for taking stock. According to the president of the AFL-CIO, this past year has meant some progress in some areas and setbacks in others. Union membership grew by 200,000 in 1993. That's the first increase in that category in 14 years. But unions lost their fight to defeat NAFTA, he notes, the North American Free Trade Agreement defeated in the Congress.
Well, we're sure glad some of you are staying indoors on this holiday and watching television today, but Flip Spiceland has your forecast in case you want to venture outdoors. Flip?
Yeah, there'll be most folks will be outdoors today, I would imagine, because not too bad out there today. If you notice in the president's speech that he mentioned the driving rain, and up here in the Northeast, but not all of the Northeast, that's about the worst of it that we find today. There's a strong low pressure center here centered offshore, and you can see how as it comes down across Boston here in Providence. Look how the rain is covering a stretch of Interstate 91 here due to the strong low pressure center. And there's a high back in here, so in between very strong gusty winds, sort of a raw, driving, windy day in this area of the country. And again, that's probably the worst of it. Although folks in places like Kentucky and Oklahoma would perhaps disagree with you because they have rainfall too stretched in this area. And I think later in the day we could see some thunder showers pop up in this area, but not much ongoing in there right now. I mean, look at the local radars in here, and this is not very bad. It is just a bit of a rainfall. But again, potential there for some thunderstorms to pop up. We'll have a more complete weather forecast coming up a little bit later in the hour. Stay with us.
A day-long fishing trip ended in disaster yesterday outside Los Angeles Harbor, leaving a 2-year-old dead. A Coast Guard officer says the 24-foot boat with 19 people aboard capsized while heading into the harbor. He says the cause of the accident is not known, but it appears the boat was overloaded. At least 3 other children were critically injured. Authorities say the survivors spent up to 5 hours in this 60-degree water.
Negotiations between the United States and Cuba over the refugee situation are scheduled to resume in New York in less than an hour now. The U.S. spokesman said yesterday, though, the two sides still seem far apart. As the talks resume, the work's expected to conclude today on the first 2,500-bed tent city for Cuban refugees in Panama. That country agreed yesterday to accept as many as 10,000 Cubans in order to ease the overcrowding at the Guantanamo Naval Base in Cuba. The hospital ship Comfort left Baltimore today. It's expected at Guantanamo later in the week to provide more medical aid and housing for some U.S. personnel. And to update those refugee figures, the Coast Guard reports it has intercepted 102 Cubans since midnight. 1,179 were picked up in all of yesterday.
There are more than 16,000 Cubans detained at the Guantanamo base, along with 14,000 Haitians, and the crowded conditions have now caused some trouble. A base spokesman says about 50 Haitian refugees staged an angry protest for 90 minutes yesterday. Some broke through the perimeter of the camp and attacked soldiers with stones. 6 soldiers received minor injuries. 1 Haitian reportedly sustained a fractured skull and is in a Miami hospital. The Irish Republican Army is standing by its 6-day-old ceasefire despite attacks from opponents. A Protestant paramilitary group says it set off a bomb outside Sinn Féin offices in Belfast last night. Sinn Féin is the IRA's political wing. No one was hurt. Another Protestant group shot and killed a Catholic man Thursday, 1 day after the IRA declared its ceasefire. The IRA demands talks with the British government, but Britain says it wants to make sure the ceasefire is permanent first.
A California woman plans to return home with her 2-year-old son tomorrow after a 6-week-long nightmare. In July, Michelle Al-Nasseri's ex-husband disappeared with the boy. Later, he contacted her from Iraq, his homeland, demanding that she fly there if she wanted to see her son again. She persuaded him to meet her in England instead, and then she contacted the FBI. The ex-husband was arrested on his arrival there. He faces an extradition hearing today. Al-Nasseri says also she had a team of mercenaries standing by in case the plan didn't work out. Authorities say a westward journey by an Ohio man and a teenage companion has proven deadly for at least 3 people. FBI officials say the 2 have killed the owners of cars which they steal, drive by night, and then repeat the process.
We believe that 2 individuals, one by the name of Louis Eugene Gilbert and Eric Alvin Elliott, are the individuals responsible for this crime spree, and we do believe that they are traveling west, probably in the direction towards California, and we are desperately seeking to apprehend Gilbert and Elliott.
The alleged killing and kidnapping tour began apparently last Tuesday when an elderly woman in Ohio was kidnapped. Her car turned up at the home of a Missouri man and woman, both of whom were found shot to death. Their car was then found yesterday next to a woman's body in Oklahoma.
No courtroom action is scheduled this week in the O.J. Simpson double murder case. The presiding judge is away, enjoying a break he says he's been planning for 2 years. Still, the legal maneuvering continues behind the scenes. Jim Hill has the latest.
The O.J. Simpson case only becomes more intensely covered as the trial date nears. So even before a jury is chosen, prosecutors have filed a motion to have the members sequestered, housed in a hotel, ferried to and from the courthouse under close scrutiny of sheriff's deputies. It's supposed to keep the jury from being influenced by media reports, but it also keeps juries away from their homes for months at a time.
It's probably slightly more likely than not that the judge will go along with this, but I think he'll be very reluctant and think hard before doing it.
O.J. Simpson's lawyers have also filed more motions as the trial nears. The most far-reaching, they want the case dismissed, saying a single knife-wielding attacker could not have killed both Nicole Brown Simpson and Ronald Goldman. That Simpson has not been firmly placed at the crime scene, and that the ex-football star has not been linked to the bloody glove found on his property. They're asking Judge Ito to reverse a ruling by preliminary hearing judge Kathleen Kennedy Powell, who let the evidence in.
Judge Ito would have to find that Judge Kennedy Powell made an error as to the law, and it's unlikely that he will find so.
Both sides could also find themselves under a gag order, which Judge Ito is considering. But recently, attorneys seem to be keeping tight-lipped on their own.
Are you observing a voluntary gag order? Yes.
The Los Angeles County Grand Jury is expected to continue its investigation of the Al Collings case this week. One mystery witness, John Dunton, is due back in court for a possible jail term. He refused to testify before the grand jury last week, saying his testimony will put his life in danger. Judge Ito's now on vacation, but before he left, he released a tentative trial schedule, which gives a good indication of how long he thinks the trial will last. He set one recess for the Martin Luther King holiday, January 16th and 17th, 1995. Jim Hill for CNN, Los Angeles.
And now joining us to analyze the pending action in the Simpson case, Attorney Royal Oakes in our Los Angeles Bureau. Counselor, the motion to dismiss, this is routine in cases of this kind, isn't it? Is this
it is routine. Yes, it is routine, and as a matter of fact, it's just the defense's second bite at the apple, but it's another one of those win-win situations for the defense team for Simpson, because they get to make the arguments, put it out in the court of public opinion, argue that the single assailant theory is false and that the case should be dismissed, create doubts in people's minds, and yet they're probably going to lose. Even if they lose the motion, still they've placed the arguments on the table.
How much of all of this preliminary business has been for Judge Ito and how much for the public?
Well, I'd say more than half of it has been for the public, because we know that the jury that ultimately decides this case has been following the matter rather closely, and as a result, although both sides have to scrap like crazy to win the legal battles, the prosecution has to get the right to have the DNA, and the defense has to try to suppress whatever evidence they can, they all know that they're talking to the American public, and from that public, 12 people will be chosen to decide the case.
A jury, we hear, is going to be sequestered almost from the get-go, from the beginning of it. Does this limit the types of people one can get? Would you like to be tried for your life by a jury that had nothing to do for the next 6 months?
Well, it really does limit it. It's the nature of our system that people have to be essentially plucked from their lives to do their civic duty and serve on a jury. But when you're talking about 6 months and maybe being sequestered, you're talking about people who are willing to give up their lives, their families, their jobs, their friends for 6 months. Unfortunately, that has some downsides. It can get people who are so desperate to be on this famous, historic O.J. Simpson jury that they might be willing to hide their biases, the fact they've already decided the case, in order to get on the jury.
Let's talk a little bit, if we can, about the alleged mock trial that was held in a neighboring state. Was this really a trial, or was it a focus group asked to consider some of the elements that we've been discussing here that have been made public in the preliminaries?
Well, we only know from reports by some of the leaks, some of the people who are in the mock trial or focus group talked to reporters. But essentially, it does sound as if it was like a mock trial, because the lawyers were there. Apparently, the lawyers expressed their views on the arguments. Maybe some of the witnesses were presented via videotape from the preliminary hearing, because we got reactions by these mock jurors to the lawyers, to some of the witnesses. And as we know, the conclusion was not good for the district attorney. O.J. Simpson won the mock trial. However, I think that the DA could turn this around, because the benefit of a mock trial is you find out where your strengths and weaknesses are. You can change your presentation. I think we've already seen the DA start to change somewhat, and therefore, in the end, it probably is a big plus for the DA, even though the publicity is very embarrassing.
All right, there hasn't been, we should probably point out, a precise ruling on the sequestering motions and the sequestering idea. What do you think will happen to that?
Well, I think the judge will probably sequester the jury. I'm not sure that that really is the way to go, however, because I think, frankly, as they say, the horse is already out of the barn. People know about this case simply because we live in a free society. We do not conduct our justice in secret. It's a very high-profile case that a lot of people care about, and yes, we know about the case. But that makes the jury selection process all the more important. You've got to have the judge try to ask the questions that are necessary to get rid of the people with the secret agendas. And I think we can do that. And to some extent, we have to trust the jurors. We can't always lock them up. We have to trust them not to go home and read the newspapers and watch the videos. The judge will promise them that they will get a scrapbook at the end of the trial. They'll have all the videos, all the clippings, but they have to be trusted, because otherwise we would end up sequestering people at enormous expense for virtually every case where there's a fair amount of publicity.
In the preliminary that we've seen thus far, the defense has had the offense, has it not? Are we likely to be surprised when the prosecution case itself begins to come on?
Well, I don't think there'll be a lot of surprises because as a result of the preliminary hearing, really everything was laid out before us. They're going to use blood tests, and they say that narrowed it down to 0.5% of the population that had O.J. Simpson's blood and enzyme combination. And then, of course, we're going to have the DNA evidence as well. But as you point out, so far it's been the defense's show in the sense that it's easier to attack. The defense has been able to cross-examine and attack and point out alleged sloppy handling of evidence and so on. When it comes to the trial, both sides will have to defend their side. So it'll be a little more even in that sense, but probably we will see a lot of the same things we saw in the preliminary hearing, the DNA evidence being offered, and you can bet the world-class DNA experts for the defense will be back trying to pick apart every problem with the DNA testing.
All right, thank you, Attorney Royal Oakes, for coming in and giving up your holiday, which usually is a time for laboring lawyers to take a day off. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Natalie?
It is a universal problem, one that affects every human on Earth. Overpopulation. How much is too much? Just ahead, an update from the United Nations Population Conference, where a controversy over abortion appears to be taking center stage. And then we'll explore one possible solution, a program that provides women with the power to avoid motherhood or at least delay it.
When I dropped off the casserole for Ed's funeral, Betty told me how tight things were.
Didn't Ed have life insurance?
Not enough. She told me his funeral alone could cost over $6,000.
That is exactly why it was so important we got that extra life insurance. I wanted to be sure you were taken care of if something happened to me.
If you're between the ages of 45 and 75, the Mutual of Omaha companies have a guaranteed life insurance plan that fits you perfectly. It costs less than $1 a day, and it's guaranteed in 5 ways. You can't be turned down. There are no health questions. You don't even have to take a physical. Your benefits will never decrease. Your payments will never increase, and it can't be canceled ever. Call this toll-free number for free information. Review it in the privacy of your own home. There's no risk or obligation. Call today for your enrollment packet, 1-800-433-3900. That's 1-800-433-3900.
What did you eat this Labor Day weekend?
A couple of burgers Friday night.
A couple of donuts.
2 tacos.
Barbecue ribs. Chocolate cheesecake Saturday night.
Some pancakes for brunch. Gee, that's funny. I should have exploded about an hour ago.
If you kind of ate your way through the Labor Day weekend, start turning things around tomorrow with Kellogg's Special K cereal. Just 110 calories, not a speck of fat. Yet those delicious, lightly toasted Special K flakes let your taste buds continue to enjoy. Start taking off what you took on this Labor Day weekend. Make tomorrow Special K Day.
Is the gray in your mustache or beard making you look too old? Now there's Just for Men Brush-In Color Gel, specially for the hard-to-color hair of mustaches and beards. This brush-in gel stays put to penetrate hard-to-color hair. In 5 minutes, rinse. Your mustache or beard blends with your natural hair color, and it won't fade or wash out.
Now that's a lot better.
Just for Men Color Gel, from the leader in men's hair coloring.
How do green thumbs keep veggies fresher longer? Ziploc brand vegetable bags with tiny holes called freshness vents. They let the right amount of moisture out, keep freshness in. That's the whole reason.
Ziploc has the lock on freshness.
For vegetables.
Headline News, the one network where you can find lifestyles and entertainment news at 25 and 55 minutes past the hour. Headline News, a whole day's news every half hour. Check cable listings for channel number.
The global population is growing by 93 million people each year, and the United Nations says it is time to slow down. So it has convened a World Population Conference in Egypt. But CNN's Richard Roth reports there's much controversy over some of the proposed solutions.
Looking skyward is a tradition in Cairo with a traditional call to prayer. But at the International Population Conference, there is something new up above. Security men deployed on rooftops to prevent hardline Muslim opponents of the conference from carrying out their threat to attack conference guests. Inside, on opening day, government leaders chose to verbally attack each other's policies on the most controversial issue unresolved, abortion. Getting debate off to a spirited start, the Prime Minister of Norway criticized those who oppose abortion, while tens of thousands of women die every year from unsafe and illegal abortions.
Decriminalizing abortions should therefore be a minimal response to this reality and a necessary means of protecting the life and health of women.
Another woman prime minister, one who nearly canceled her trip due to calls to boycott the conference from Islamic groups at home, strongly differed on the abortion question.
There is another point of view, and I must put it across. For the Holy Book tells us, kill not your children on a plea of want. We provide sustenance for them and for you.
About 170 countries allow abortion, with some exceptions. The United States has found itself accused for months of using this conference to establish a wider mandate.
But let us take a false issue off the table. The United States does not seek to establish a new international right to abortion. And we do not believe that abortion should be encouraged as a method of family planning.
The UN Secretary General, back home in Egypt, urged tolerance.
We must not place ourselves in any absurd and regressive quarrels about words.
But several countries who are boycotting this conference think there are words in the draft population document which will establish Western control over poor third world countries.
We want our dialogue to avoid dogmatism and fanaticism, for extremist opinions should remain outside the framework of the development of societies, as they lack in unanimity and acceptability at all levels.
Behind the scenes, the European Union is floating compromise language that will finesse the differences over abortion. The Vatican says it's willing to listen to details.
We will find a way, as we have in the past, to deal with the whole question of family planning in the document. That does not mean that we will accept family planning, but we'll be able to state our concern about the term.
The behind-the-scenes negotiating has already begun. The compromise language may state that abortion would not be used to promote family planning. Governments would be urged to curb unsafe abortions. Richard Roth, CNN, Cairo.
One of the ideas being put forward at this conference is the improvement of education of women. Studies indicate when women are educated, more pregnancies are delayed. In today's medical report, CNN's Rhonda Rowland looks at one program that's trying to break this cycle of pregnancy and poverty.
Nyoka Canister, Catherine Sullivan. They're both teen mothers, unmarried, without high school diplomas.
Bye-bye.
They're the kind of women many in society write off, uneducated and ill-equipped to support themselves, let alone a child.
Give me a kiss. Bye-bye. Give me a hug. You be good, okay?
They're part of an epidemic in the United States. About 500,000 teenagers become mothers each year.
I didn't expect to be a mother at this age. It wasn't planned or anything. It just happened. I didn't protect myself.
It's just a carelessness on my part, and I take responsibility for that.
Both want to defy the stereotype. They intend to graduate from high school and dream of careers in healthcare. To do that, they're getting some help from the Alta Bates Medical Center's mentoring program. The first step toward empowerment is daycare. A woman named Alta Bates built this hospital in 1905 for women and infants. At the same time, as a single parent, she raised 2 adopted children. Today, through Alta Bates, teenage mothers are being empowered.
Good morning. How are you? Good.
When they're not in school, they're off to work under the supervision of a mentor. They learn job skills and get paid. Nyoka just moved from an apartment she shared with 7 people. She slept on the floor, her daughter on a chair.
I need to take your weight.
She had no role models and no concept of a work ethic.
Initially, I think she really didn't understand the importance of being to work on time, and was somewhat nonchalant about, coming to work at the designated time.
I wanted to
give them self-esteem? I believe that it does. I want them to feel self-empowered, to say, I want to go to school, I want to learn how to finish my education.
Dr. Lori Zabin doesn't believe mentoring programs can turn around a lifetime that has fostered a lack of self-esteem.
But to return them then to exactly the environment that took away their self-esteem in the first place, and to think that you've inoculated them in some way against everything cruel that the society's doing for them, that does not seem to me to be a long-term solution.
The Alta Bates mentoring program is 4 years old and has mentored 73 teens. So far, 51 graduated from high school and 39 went on to college. 6 were given job offers by Alta Bates, including Nyoka Canister.
I never had a real job before, so this is really, it really made me feel good.
Now she wants to be a role model for her daughter.
I want her to see her mother with a nice job, independent.
What does she mean to you?
The world.
But she doesn't recommend motherhood to other teens.
And kiss. Mwah. If you can prevent having a child at a young age, you should, because you have to work extra hard. Don't have one when you're not comfortable and settled. It's not a picnic.
Rhonda Rowland, CNN, Berkeley, California.
News from Medicine is brought to you by Excedrin PM. When you've got a nighttime headache and can't sleep, aspirin-free Excedrin PM, the nighttime headache medicine.
It's nighttime. You've got a headache and can't sleep. You would take a nighttime medicine, but you're worried. Why? This is aspirin-free and gently helps you to sleep. This is the only one that's treated nighttime headaches and sleeplessness over 200 million times. Aspirin-free Excedrin PM, the only one made by Excedrin, the headache medicine. This is the PM medicine for headaches from Excedrin. Aspirin-free Excedrin PM.
Nobody else has it. Only Headline News has the sports ticker. Continuously updated scores from college football to the pros, even while the games are in progress. Headline News sports ticker. This fall, you'll always know the score.
Is the gray in your mustache or beard making you look too old? Now there's Just for Men Brush-In Color Gel, specially for the hard-to-color hair of mustaches and beards. This brush-in gel stays put to penetrate hard-to-color hair. In 5 minutes, rinse. Your mustache or beard blends with your natural hair color, and it won't fade or wash out.
Now that's a lot better.
Just for Men Color Gel, from the leader in men's hair coloring.
It's next to the kitchen. It's in the park. It's over the bakery. It's the new American workplace. And today, about 40 million of us have an office there, with our own dreams, our own ideas, our own ways of getting the job done. And to help get it done a little easier or faster, we turn to our branch office, Kinko's. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, branch office for the new American workplace. Wherever it is.
Right now, during Sears' huge Labor Day sale, all Craftsman portable electric tools are on sale. Plus, all paint, every gallon, every brand, on sale. But hurry, sale ends Monday at Sears, bringing America's best to you.
When I bite into a York peppermint patty, I get the sensation of itty-bitty snowmen running up and down my spine.
Ooh, I'll take one of those.
York peppermint patty. Get the sensation.
Smart people go to the Labor Day sale at Sears and save. Take this 4-cycle Whirlpool washer and matching dryer. Your choice, $219 each. So, who's smarter? She went to Sears. He won the Nobel Prize. It's too close to call.
In Washington, fire code violations in some 4 dozen public schools threaten to delay the start of the school year Wednesday. To avert that, city officials are proposing that volunteers be posted on each campus to watch for fires and help evacuate students. If a judge rejects that idea, the school superintendent may delay opening day at all schools, affecting some 82,000 students.
You know, even the defendant is sometimes amazed by the lenience of the justice system. In London, a man who had kidnapped and sexually attacked a 10-year-old girl couldn't believe it when he was sentenced to 9 years in prison. "What sort of a sentence is that?" he cried. "I have ruined a girl's life, and you give me 9 years." The girl's mother agreed, shouting in the courtroom, "That's not justice."
Just ahead on NewsHour, a check on the top stories of the day, and live from New York, the latest on the financial world on this U.S. holiday.
And there's a new definition of free fall. One Canadian woman takes the express down 10,000 feet.
And Labor Day means labor as usual for some, keeping one summer tradition on the road.
Tonight in the Crossfire, Forrest Gump, closet conservative or a 60s icon. Looking beyond the silver screen. Crossfire, tonight, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.
This is a commercial for business people from Court Office Furniture Rental. So why aren't we showing you office furniture? Because we just wanted you to experience the peace of mind that comes when you don't have to worry about that part of your business.
Court Furniture Rental, with locations in Boston, Brighton, Framingham, and Burlington.
Nature. It has the power to nourish, renew, and protect. That's why Freeman Beautiful Bath Treatments are inspired by everything natural. So Freeman can help keep your skin healthy, smooth, and naturally beautiful. I'm Larry Freeman.
And I'm Mark Freeman.
And that's a promise from our family to yours. Freeman Beautiful Bath Treatments. From the beauty of nature comes beautiful skin, naturally.
This is CNN.
Now checking the top stories on NewsHour. President Clinton went to the Bath Iron Works of Maine to deliver his annual Labor Day address. He praised management and labor at the shipyard for working together in the face of new challenge. Mr. Clinton also touted his own record in office, saying his efforts to reduce the deficit has helped the middle-class American. Vice President Al Gore is representing the United States at that UN population conference in Cairo, Egypt. He's urging compromise on some of the contentious religious issues, Catholics and Muslims objecting to the wording of a draft plan, contending it's too tolerant of abortion and extramarital sex.
Car thefts, kidnappings, and killings appear to be the legacy of an Ohio man and his teenage sidekick. Authorities in Ohio, Missouri, and Oklahoma say the two are responsible for at least 3 deaths. Police say they've been stealing cars and killing the owners. Then they allegedly drive the car a while before searching for a new car and a new victim. The markets are closed today for Labor Day. Nevertheless, we have the latest on the business front. Terry Keenan is working hard in New York. Terry.
Thanks, Natalie. It is Labor Day, and the nation's honoring its workers by giving most of them the day off. As you said, all U.S. financial markets are closed for the day. But as Americans mark the holiday with backyard barbecues, there's a report confirming what many already knew. Working for a living is no picnic. According to a report from the Washington think tank Economic Policy Institute, most workers are losing ground against inflation.
There's 2 main sources of the wage difficulties. One is the erosion of our labor market institutions, the fall in the value of the minimum wage, the erosion of union membership and union power. Another set of problems is that we've been shifting jobs from high-wage, goods-producing jobs to low-wage service jobs, and that we have a lot of pressure on our labor force from a bigger trade deficit and from international competition.
Still, not all groups in the labor market are suffering from falling wages. College-educated women are earning more, although they still earn less than men. And separately, Labor Secretary Robert Reich says there are wide disparities in the labor market in different regions of the country.
Labor markets in different places of the country are still operating in very different ways. Southern California is still lagging about a year behind the rest of the country. The Rocky Mountain states are doing extremely well and continue to do extremely well. We're seeing now just the beginnings of a comeback in the mid-Atlantic states. The Midwest, again, doing very, very well.
A Washington, D.C. real estate magnate finds himself out of a job on this Labor Day. Herbert Haft was ousted as chairman of the Combined Properties, the shopping mall management company he founded. The 74-year-old Haft was replaced by his youngest son, Ronald. It's the latest chapter in a family feud. Last year, the senior Haft won a power struggle when he ousted his wife and oldest son, Robert, replacing Robert with Ronald. And that's all the business news for now. I'm Terry Keenan in New York.
Tom Kirkland here. Football is in the air. I even became a couch potato this weekend.
You did?
Yes. That's
First
sad.
time all summer?
That's sad. Pretty much.
Okay. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Right.
Coming up next in sports, day 8 of the U.S. Open. But who's kidding whom? We all want to talk pro pigskin, including last night's madness in Mile High Stadium. Highlights of the Broncos and Chargers coming right up.
Do you know what Hitachi makes? Ready? Go. Does Hitachi make camcorders?
Yes.
Barcode readers?
Yes.
Hydroelectric power equipment?
Yes.
Clown noses?
No.
Power tools?
Yes.
TVs?
Yes.
MRI systems?
Yes.
Beanies?
No.
Oscilloscopes?
Yes.
Micromotors?
Yes.
Mass transit trains?
Yes.
Tongue depressors?
No.
PBX phone systems?
Yes.
Catnip?
No.
Semiconductors?
Yes.
Lots of products?
Lots.
Over 20,000. Yeah, but who's counting?
Every day, thousands of new customers are finding QVC a great way to shop. All you need is a TV and a phone.
Thank you for calling QVC. This is Kim.
QVC relies on AT&T 800 service to bring in as much as $70,000 per minute. Each dollar begins with a customer calling.
AT&T makes sure huge volumes of calls get through 24 hours a day. If agents are busy in Virginia, calls are routed to Texas or Pennsylvania. QVC always gives customers more than they expect. That's why AT&T works for me.
From the first moment we set foot on the Cayman Islands, we found a peace and tranquility we hadn't felt anywhere before.
The Cayman Islands.
This can't be the right price.
Some people are discovering something highly irregular about the price of Metamucil. Same effective natural fiber for regularity at a surprisingly lower price.
I'm getting the big size.
Metamucil, the natural choice for regularity.
Moonshot, the inside story of America's ultimate voyage. Written by Alan Shepard and Deke Slayton. Moonshot reveals the untold stories of NASA's quest for the moon. Moonshot, now in bookstores everywhere.
And coming up at 1 o'clock Eastern, Talk Back Live. Susan Rook has a preview. Susan.
Hi, Reed. Thanks. Here I am on the set of Talk Back Live, and since we're working this Labor Day, we decided to put you to work. We want to find out what you think about work. Are we working to live or living to work? Your chance to talk back at the top of the hour.
Expectant moms and morning sickness. In today's food and health segment, Liz Weiss has the latest tips for controlling the #1 complaint of pregnant women.
Carol Corbman had the nose of a hound dog when she was suffering from morning sickness.
She would be upstairs and I would be in the kitchen throwing something into the garbage can. And she would start yelling, "Are you opening the trash can?" From upstairs. I mean, it was really unbelievable.
According to registered dietitian Miriam Eric of Boston's Brigham and Women's Hospital, even the most common odors like coffee and cologne can drive a pregnant woman over the edge.
If there are smells in your background that make you nauseous, you don't eat, you don't drink, and life becomes pretty miserable.
After interviewing hundreds of women with morning sickness, Eric recommends sniffing a lemon to snuff out nasty odors.
Most of my patients agree that lemons, although that may sound bizarre, actually perk them up, make them feel better.
Lemons helped Amy Dunlap, who had morning sickness with both pregnancies, all day long for 9 months.
It was a soothing smell. Miriam told me to try, and I kind of laughed at her, and I said, a lemon, you know, I can just see it, and it worked.
Now, if lemons don't do the trick, other tips include asking friends not to wear perfume or cologne, take a walk in the fresh air, and keep away from the coffee pot or the company cafeteria if the smells make you sick. Now, once a pregnant woman with morning sickness gets her nose under control, it's time to think of her stomach. While most women are told to eat dry crackers to control their nausea, believe it or not, potato chips and other salty snack foods may bring even more relief. In other words, munching on junk food may be okay for the short term.
If potato chips and ice cream sundaes keep food down, you're hydrated, you get calories, you should forget about the guilt. Just feeling better is really important, the first focus.
Tostado chips and hot sauce, I wanted that, and everyone thought I was crazy.
Apples, lots of apples, which I never liked before. I really ate 5 apples a day.
So the next time a pregnant woman with morning sickness craves pickles and ice cream, it could be just what she needs to settle her stomach. Liz Weiss for CNN in Boston.
Oh, I have no idea how to segue from morning sickness to football, so I won't even try.
There are some who maybe perhaps wager the wrong way yesterday and last night who have morning sickness. How's that?
Oh, that's
you know, off the top of my head. Hey,
Thanks for trying.
Yeah, you fumbled it to me.
Okay.
The first Pro Football Monday of the 1994 season, and among the usual outcomes, a handful of intriguing results. Who thought the Jets would go into Buffalo and beat the Bills by 20? What about Indianapolis pummeling Houston? Then last night, Denver jumped out to a 17-0 lead over San Diego in the first quarter at Mile High Stadium. No way San Diego could come back in that environment, huh? That's Leonard Russell, the newest Broncos scores, part of the 17-0 first quarter blitz. But the Broncos led it 17-6 late in the first half, and this one of the turning points of the game. Elway looking for a touchdown, but instead Stanley Richard picks it off. You see the time winding down in the first half. He's going to go 98 yards. San Diego comes back to lead it at the half, 27-24. Late in the game, Chargers up 3 now. John Elway trying to position his troops. They're right in front. They're about the 5-yard line. Easy field goal range. He's going for the touchdown, and what is that? One of the most embarrassing plays of Elway's career ends up in the arms of Junior Seau, and Denver comes on but can't come on enough. Now the rest of Sunday's numbers. You'll notice we won't mention baseball or the S word in this cut-in. It is the beginning of the second week at the U.S. Open Tennis Championships. Today's feature match has 6th seed Michael Chang running around the stadium court with unseeded Andre Agassi, both playing very well. Defending champ and top seed Pete Sampras is in good shape heading into the quarterfinals. This is yesterday's match with Roger Smith. The man from the Bahamas with the hat had to run all over the court. He stole the first set, 6-4, but from then on he was merely chasing down Sampras' best work. A fun match if you're there or if you happen to see it on TV. Look at this beautiful stop volley. Smith gives it a good go, and then when he can't get to it, he decides to pull up for a break. Despite a nagging injury, Pete's serious about a repeat Open Championship.
You know, mentally, I just kind of refuse to lose. You know, I just have to do whatever it takes to win, and that's really the bottom line. And you know, I want to win so bad that you just have to hang in there mentally and try to get. You know, I'm not going to win every match playing like that, but I managed to get through today, and that's, I think, is a difference in the last couple of years.
In the quarterfinals, Sampras will meet unseeded Jaime Izaga. That's all I'm going to do this time. That's absolutely it. Back with more in the 2 p.m. Eastern Time Hour News Hour. Romps on right after this.
U.S. Open Tennis brought to you by Lexus Luxury Automobiles, including the 1994 ES. Improved, revised, refined, in a word, new.
First anniversary, paper. Second, China. Third, crystal. This year, we're celebrating our 5th anniversary. But you don't have to give us anything. The 0-down 36-month lease for the Lexus LS. It's the perfect gift, available only at your nearest participating Lexus dealer.
Billy, what's wrong?
I can't get this math.
Never before in America and in no other country in the world has it been easier to get top grades in math. How? The answer is Math Made Easy videotapes. Basic math, high school math, or college math, all tested and proven instructional videotapes just for you. If you need top grades in math, Math Made Easy tutoring tapes are a must. Used by educators all over America. It's like having your own professional tutor at your side. Follow the thousands of students who have gained confidence and have prepared for A's in math. Select the tapes you need.
Call now for details and a free brochure. Dial 1-800-MATH-192. Parents or grandparents, now's the time to help a student in your family.
Mom, I got an A.
That's great.
Math Made Easy tutoring tapes are guaranteed. Call now for more information. Dial 1-800-MATH-192. That's 1-800-MATH-192.
The air dances with the waters, which brings the rain that feeds the land, that is home to the animals. All life dances together.
In a world so connected, choosing one environmental cause can be hard. EarthShare is 40 environmental charities working together. You and your company can help by calling 1-800-MY-SHARE.
All life lives, or doesn't, together.
MetLife manages assets of over $160 billion. When 40 million people count on you for insurance and financial services, you can never be too strong. Get Met. It pays.
Today on Talk Back Live, do we work to live or live to work? I'm Susan Rook. What's the American way of work? Tell us what you think today on Talk Back Live, 1 p.m. Eastern, only on CNN.
And in our What Else Is New segment, a thoughtful way to brighten up a dull day. Like some of us, toll workers have to work on this Labor Day holiday. But as CNN's affiliate WPVI in Philadelphia shows us, the Nestle company has taken pity on them. Company representatives delivered toll house cookies to the toll booths over the weekend. It was admittedly a public relations event, but we're living witness to the fact that it worked, aren't we? And the toll workers themselves, well, they don't seem to mind.
Read where are cookies. And now the story of a woman looking for a little, make that a lot, of security. And it comes to us from a town in Colorado called Security. A balloon passenger had a close call yesterday. Witnesses say one of two women fell out of the balloon when it grounded in a field. The pilot fell out when he tried to keep the balloon grounded, and the balloon began rising. The one woman in the basket began screaming for help. Some people on the ground told her to pull the emergency cord, deflating her near brush with disaster.
There's an Ontario woman who has lived to tell the tale of a parachute jump in which her chute failed to open all the way. Sharon McClellan's 10,000-foot plunge ended not with an impact, but a splashdown. She landed on her back in a marsh. While her partially open chute did slow the descent, McClellan didn't open the backup chute, and even she thought she was a goner.
So I'm panicking, and that's not helping, and then I'm going, okay, I know what I have to do it. And by that time, it was too late, and I was hurling to the ground, and it was more like I just can't believe this is happening to me.
There she was just standing. She had taken off the gear. She was standing without the parachutes, looking at me, and she was just, it was wonderful, you know. It was like there wasn't a scratch on her.
So McClellan did walk away with a few bruises only, and she even apologized to her instructor. Her father says some great big angels guided her into that marsh.
Hopefully that's the end of our harrowing tales for you. Maybe Flip can slow down your heartbeat just a bit with the nice weather forecast. Flip.
Indeed we can for much of the nation. We talked earlier in the hour about this strong low pressure disturbance here off the northeastern coast, but it's not affecting much of the area, just southern Maine, and then it comes down through here through a small portion of New Hampshire and picks up extreme eastern sections of Massachusetts and Rhode Island. But New York City, for example, is nice and sunny. But it's a very, very strong low pressure center, so even where it is clear in here, it is quite windy. Then we have a cold front that reaches down here through the Ohio Valley and back in the southern plain states. And those of you trying to get in the Labor Day picnic or the Labor Day softball game or whatever it is you do on Labor Day may have some problems here in old southern Ohio, southern Indiana, specifically into Kentucky. Back here in Oklahoma, there have been some heavy thunderstorms today. Travelers through this area I don't think would have much of a problem, at least not in the early part of the day. Now, I know everybody hits the road late in the day, and yeah, then you might, because you might see some thunderstorms build along this cold front. But right now, it's not real bad in here. The west remains warm and dry. Most of the south is absolutely beautiful today. From Texas all the way over to the Carolinas, we are seeing temperatures cooler than they have been, and the skies are nice bright blue. There were record-setting cold temperatures in the northern Rockies. The northwest Pocatello set a record-setting low temperature last night. There were a bunch of them. I think West Yellowstone, I believe, went down to 24 degrees last night, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very cool weather up in this portion of the world. We're still watching this line down here in Oklahoma, and as I said, that may continue to develop. We had worse thunderstorms earlier than we are seeing now here in Kentucky, and now some of the rainfall beginning to move on down into Tennessee. The strong low pressure center in the northeast, at this hour, again, probably the worst of it. Here's that cold front that I was talking about, and that's what we want to watch as we move through the forecast period. I'm not talking much at all about the west because the weather there is status quo. Here, as we turn to tomorrow morning, you can see the cold front continuing to move to the south, carrying a few showers and thunderstorms with it. The low in the northeast moves not one whit. The west remains the same. By tomorrow night, we'll start to see an area of high pressure build in across the plain states, and I think by midweek, we'll be looking at some much warmer temperatures in this area, and by Tuesday evening, the showers and the thunderstorms will make their way into the south. But I don't look for a lot of violent weather because it's so cool in here, not a lot of energy in the atmosphere. Take a look now at specific forecasts for cities around the nation and Canada for the remainder of this Labor Day. If you have to travel home late this Labor Day evening, you might want to leave yourself a little extra time, leave a little earlier if you're going to be moving through this area that'll be affected by this cold front moving down through the Ohio Valley and the southern plains states. We don't want things to be worse for you when you have to get up and go to work tomorrow morning or go to school. Now back to Reed in Washington.
All right, Flip, thank you. And just ahead on NewsHour, a part of the past remains on its sweet summer rounds.
Rheem is ready to launch a new era in furnaces.
Begin countdown.
5 years in planning.
4.
4 years in development.
3.
3 years in lab testing.
2.
2 years in field testing.
1.
Now there's only one choice in high-efficiency furnaces. Quiet, tough, reliable. The new Rheem 90 Plus furnace. It's taking high efficiency to new heights.
All systems are go.
We needed some help finding the right mutual fund.
The investment section.
So we tried the library.
Anything in particular?
Yeah, mutual funds?
But there was so much to go through, it only made things worse. We need information, but in a form we can use.
You gotta be kidding.
With so many mutual funds today, it's hard to know where to turn. That's why Fidelity Investments, America's largest mutual fund company, created Fund Match, a program that helps you choose mutual funds to match your needs.
I saw your ad in the paper. Another CD was maturing. Yes, I'm wondering if you could send me some information. So we did our homework and called for information on several mutual funds. We're willing to put in time and effort. See if we can figure that thing out.
Who writes this stuff?
Yeah, look at this. But there has to be an easier way.
To help you choose a mix of mutual funds that may be right for you, Fidelity has the free Fund Match Kit. You'll receive a step-by-step worksheet that helps you develop a personal plan, plus an easy-to-use workbook that explains the importance of diversification. So call Fidelity today for your free Fund Match Kit. Call 1-800-643-8585.
When I got this rug, everyone said I was crazy, but it's the look I wanted. My friends always ask if they should take their shoes off. They must think I only walk on it wearing socks. You can't even tell how often I've been to that refrigerator. And when I'm going for ice cream, I'm not thinking about what's on my feet.
Presenting Woolite Heavy Traffic Carpet Cleaner. Woolite's been caring for fibers for over 40 years.
Sure, I want it to last, but not because I was afraid to walk on it.
Woolite, the fiber care expert.
Sometimes when I explain my customers' prescriptions, Dorothy, how are you? They may have other things on their mind. I think this will make maybe they don't feel well.
Thank you, Jim.
Or they're a bit distracted.
Great.
But they could miss something important. So now we give our customers an Eckerd RX advisor with new prescriptions, personalized with all the facts on their medication, like proper use, possible side effects, and more. The Eckerd RX advisor. It's kind of like taking me home with you. Hope you feel better. Only on paper.
Bye-bye. Before O.J. Simpson, Jean Harris was at the center of her own high-profile murder trial. Meet the woman convicted of killing the Scarsdale diet author on Larry King Live tonight, 9 Eastern on CNN.
Well, if you're collecting sounds of summer, what might they be? Crickets on a summer evening, waves on the beach?
Or read perhaps chimes of the ice cream truck coming up the street. And the driver is another person who keeps on laboring this Labor Day weekend. Archie Kelly reports.
It's a familiar sound and a familiar sight in this suburban Washington neighborhood. Rick Hancock, the good humor man, doing what he has been doing for the past 21 years.
Hi, kids. How you doing?
And doing it the old-fashioned way. This good humor man with an engineering degree puts on the traditional uniform each morning and drives a good humor truck that's seen well over 500,000 miles.
They say, that, where did you get that truck? Well, this is the same truck that came around when they were a kid. And it is a bit of a tradition that I'm carrying on.
Hey, what do you want? There they are. The kids look forward, they hear his bell, and they come running out to get the ice cream treats.
That's part of the tradition that hasn't changed at all over the years.
Because it's like hot outside and it's good to have something to cool off and then go back and play.
Ever since I've moved here, he's come, and I always ask my parents for money, buy some ice cream for him.
Hancock drives one of the few remaining good humor jump trucks.
Called the jump truck because you have to jump out of the truck each time to serve your customer.
And jumping out perhaps 200 times a day, Hancock says, is something that quickly removes the romanticism from the job.
Sometimes the fatigue isn't really enormous. Sometimes it almost becomes painful just to keep myself going. All right, thanks a lot, Brian.
But he does keep going in spite of the pain and fatigue. He keeps going, he says, simply because there are more customers to serve. So while much around us gives way to change, some things, it seems, do stay the same. In these neighborhoods, at least around Sterling, Virginia, Rick Hancock is making sure of that, making sure the bell still rings, making sure kids continue to get their ice cream on a hot summer day, and perhaps more importantly, making sure this piece of Americana remains alive to touch another generation of American youngsters. Archie Kelly for CNN, Sterling, Virginia.
And that'll be this edition of NewsHour. I'm Reed Collins in Washington.
And I'm Natalie Allen at the CNN Center in Atlanta. Stay with us, because up next, Talk Back Live. Here's Susan Rook with the preview.
Natalie, thanks. You're working, we're working, and we're going to put our audience to work. What do y'all think about work? Are we living to work or working to live? Your chance to talk back right after this.
Weeknights, Pat, Michael, and John will shake things up in Washington, and America will thank them. Crossfire, 7:30 Eastern on CNN.